Rain lashed down, blurring the world into an impressionist painting of greys and blacks. The wind howled like a banshee, whipping the trees into a frenzy. Lily gripped the steering wheel tighter, her knuckles white as ghosts against the worn leather. She was late, later than she'd ever been. And the storm seemed to mock her predicament. Each flash of lightning illuminated the desolate country road, revealing nothing but gnarled trees and thick, menacing shadows. The radio crackled, spitting out static and the occasional snatch of a song, only to be swallowed again by the storm's fury. Lily shivered, pulling her thin jacket tighter around herself. She just wanted to be home, safe and warm, far away from this tempestuous night. A shudder ran through the car, a death rattle that sent a jolt of fear through Lily's heart. The engine coughed, sputtered, and then died, plunging her into an abyss of silence even more unnerving than the storm's cacophony. She tried the ignition again and again, but the only response was the mocking click of a dead battery. Panic welled in her chest, threatening to overwhelm her. Lily fumbled for her phone, its screen a beacon of hope in the darkened car. No signal. Of course, she was stranded, alone, with the storm raging around her and night closing in like a predator. Desperation clawed at her. Then, through the deluge, a faint light flickered in the distance. A house, a chance. With a deep breath, Lily steeled her nerves and stepped out into the storm. The house loomed before her, a gothic silhouette against the storm-racked sky. It was tall and imposing, with turrets that seemed to claw at the heavens and ivy that clung to its walls like grasping claws. The windows were dark, vacant eyes staring out at her from beneath heavy arches. As she approached, each step felt heavier than the last, as if she were walking against an unseen current. The wind seemed to moan around the old house, whistling through cracks and crevices like a mournful spirit. The front gate hung precariously from one hinge, its rusted iron groaning in protest as Lily pushed it open. The path leading to the front door was overgrown with weeds, as though it hadn't seen a visitor in decades. An overwhelming sense of foreboding washed over Lily, whispering that she should turn back, that this was a place best left undisturbed. But the storm raged on, and she had nowhere else to go. The heavy oak door creaked open with a groan, as if disturbed from a long slumber. The air inside was stale and cold, thick with the scent of dust and decay. Cobwebs hung like macabre decorations from every corner, and the only light came from the occasional flash of lightning that illuminated the cavernous hall through grimy windows. Lily stepped inside, her footsteps echoing unnaturally loud in the oppressive silence. The door slammed shut behind her with a resounding boom, as if sealing her fate. She jumped, her heart pounding in her chest. It was then that she noticed the silence. The storm that had raged only moments ago was completely muted inside the house, as if the very walls were absorbing all sound. It was unnerving, this unnatural quiet, broken only by the frantic thump of her own heart. Moving deeper into the house, Lily found herself in a grand living room frozen in time. Dust-covered furniture sat draped in white sheets, resembling ghostly apparitions. A fireplace dominated one wall, its cold hearth littered with the ashes of long-dead fires. Above the mantel hung a faded portrait of a young woman with hauntingly sad eyes, her gaze seeming to follow Lily's every move. A sudden gust of wind coming from nowhere rattled the windows, momentarily lifting a corner of a faded tapestry hanging on the wall. Lily glimpsed a scene of a woman being dragged towards a mirror by spectral hands, her face contorted in terror. Then, just as quickly, the wind died down, and the tapestry fell back into place, concealing the unsettling image. A shiver ran down Lily's spine. This house held stories, dark and forgotten, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she was stumbling into the middle of something sinister. Drawn by an unseen force, Lily descended into the basement. The air grew colder, damper, heavy with the weight of unseen things. The only light came from a single bare bulb, casting long, grotesque shadows that danced and writhed on the damp stone walls. At the far end of the basement, she found it. A massive, ornate mirror, its silvered surface tarnished with age but still reflecting a distorted image of the room. Lily cautiously approached the mirror, drawn to it as if in a trance. She raised a hand, her fingers tracing the intricate carvings on its frame. As she did, the reflection in the mirror rippled, the distortion growing until it no longer resembled the room around her. Instead, she saw a swirling vortex of shadows and light, and in its depths a pair of eyes, cold and ancient, stared back at her. Section 7. Ensnared. Terror gripped Lily's heart, constricting her breath. She tried to step back to tear her gaze away from the hypnotic pull of the mirror, but it was too late. The reflection was changing, morphing, the shadows coalescing into a figure that was both her and not her. It was her reflection, yet it moved with a life of its own, its eyes burning with a cold, malevolent light. A spectral hand, pale and gaunt, reached out from the mirror, its long, bony fingers closing around Lily's wrist in an icy grip. She screamed, a sound that was swallowed by the oppressive silence of the house. She struggled against the unseen force, but it was no use. The grip tightened, pulling her closer, dragging her towards the mirror's shimmering surface. Section 8. Whispers on the Wind. Lily's terror reached a crescendo as she felt herself being pulled inexorably towards the mirror. Her reflection, its face now a mask of pure malice, grinned wickedly, its grip tightening on her wrist like a vice. She caught a glimpse of her own face, contorted in fear, before it was swallowed by the swirling vortex within the mirror. The last thing she heard, as the darkness claimed her, was a chorus of whispers, soft and chilling, seeming to emanate from the very walls of the house. They whispered of vanity and despair, of souls trapped and bargains made. Then silence descended once more, heavy and absolute, as if the house itself had inhaled her, consuming her terror along with her. Section 9. The Vanishing. The storm outside, as if mirroring the horror that had transpired within the house, abruptly ceased. The wind died down to a gentle breeze, and the rain slowed to a soft drizzle. The only evidence of the tempest was the dripping of water from the eaves and the occasional rumble of distant thunder. Inside the house, the silence reigned, heavy and absolute. The mirror at the end of the basement stood alone, its surface once again smooth and reflective. There was no sign of Lily, no indication of the struggle that had just taken place. The only sound was the drip, drip, drip of water from a crack in the ceiling, each drop a tiny hammer blow against the silence. Section 10. A Legacy of Fear. Locals would later speak of the old house on the hill in hushed tones they always had. It was a place of whispers and shadows, a place where the veil between this world and the next was thin. They told stories of a heartbroken woman who had lived there long ago, a woman obsessed with her own reflection, driven mad by grief and vanity. Some whispered that she had made a pact with a dark entity, trading her soul for eternal beauty, only to be betrayed and trapped within her own reflection. They said that her spirit still lingered, seeking others to share her fate. And on stormy nights, when the wind howled and the rain lashed down, they said you could still hear her cries echoing through the empty halls, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lay hidden beneath the house's decaying facade. Lily's disappearance remained a mystery, another chapter in the dark legend of the house on the hill.